Welcome to the Three-Piece Combo MMA Show, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Johnathan, aka Three-Piece Combo, and I'm joined by a special guest, actually fellow UCF mate, I guess I could say, Mr. Johan Blanco. I appreciate you joining me on a rather eventful UFC 267. How are you doing today, first of all?
I'm good, man. Just after watching these fights, man, I'm just so excited, man, and I'm a little emotional. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, it's tough not to get emotional after such a powerful moment. I mean, Glover Teixeira, second oldest champion in the history second oldest to become the champion, oldest in the modern history. For him to break through after all this time, after so much, it's an incredible moment. It's also a little heartbreaking for Jan Blachowicz to lose the championship as well. Personally, I'm a huge Israel Adesanya fan, but the way that Jan carries himself and the way that he just moves as a champion is just very respectable. And for him to also go, from going 1-4 and then coming back and making a run to the UFC title, just mad respect to Jan as well. So let's start off with this main event because, like we talked about, it was just there was a lot on it, right? There was a lot emotionally weighing on this main event. Let's just get to your reaction overall. What were your overall thoughts on how this fight went down?
Well, I think that from the start, Glover Teixeira implemented his game plan that he's done in this winning streak that he's currently on, which was to close the distance and just really grind it out and use his ground game to his advantage because as he is old, but the two things that don't leave you last is your strength and your skills. And he implemented his game plan to a T. He kept Jan Blachowicz in first gear, and to be honest, like it was just a such an impressive performance by him.
It really was. Like you said, he got to his game plan right away. There was really just no wind up. There was a couple of jabs that Jan landed early in the game. As I get this banner to come up real quick. Oh, there we go. Cool. Yeah, but he kind of worked into his game plan right away. He got Jan to the ground and he was able to stay in full guard. And it was good for Jan to be smart and realize, hey, it's the first round. I got taken down. We're dry right now. Let me keep the close guard, right? Let me just stay safe. Let me mitigate the risk right now. You have 4 rounds to go. You're not taking too much damage. It's okay. So respect to him. But like you said, Glover came in and implemented his game plan immediately. He was able to do having some like can opener style stuff on the ground. He was being real smothering, elbows to the face, forehead to the bottom of the chin, just a lot of things that are just grind you down, wear you out type of submission, type of ground and pound. Not a lot of necessarily, elbows or punches to the face, but just kind of a lot of grinding things. But getting into that second round, man, that second round was just kind of where everything started getting different, where everything changed because we saw that they started to exchange a little bit more, right? Glover wasn't immediately going to the ground, and a beautiful left hook by Glover Teixeira caught Jan Blachowicz, and it wobbled him immediately. And I mean, the fact that he even stayed up after a shot like that is incredible, but it immediately wobbled him. Glover was able to take him down, get into, I think, half guard immediately. Then he gets on the mount. Then Jan goes over. He goes right on, flattens him out, gets that rear naked choke. Fast tap. I don't know if it was in immediately or if it was just some damage on the chin. But fast tap, immediate tap, and Glover Teixeira is now the light heavyweight champion of the world. Incredible fight, my man. What were your emotions as you saw Glover getting that belt wrapped around his waist after such a long career?
I mean, I've been following Glover since he debuted in the UFC. I mean, it's been a long time. In the mid 2010s, we thought he was not going to be a contender anymore because we thought his prime years were over and stuff like that. And going into this current streak he's on, it was pretty impressive. He beat guys like Ion Cutelaba, Carl Robeson, and stuff like that, which were pretty impressive because they were significantly younger fighters. But then you started to see him beat guys like Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, Nikita Krylov, and now you're thinking, wow, this is a Cinderella story. And I thought it wasn't. I thought it would be a real bittersweet ending to it, just because Jan Blachowicz, defied all the odds. He beat Israel Adesanya. He stopped Dominic Reyes. He knocked out Luke Rockhold. So we thought it was just going to be another, it was going to be a Polish power stoppage. That's what I thought personally. I thought he was going to, retain the belt. But just to see that 20-year journey, culminate in this, in him getting the belt wrapped around his waist. I mean, you can't be other than inspired by him. Like, he really was in this was an inspirational performance, and this was just inspirational run as for Glover Teixeira.
I mean, you can't write shit better than that, right? You really can't write shit much
Right.
better than that. He had to wait to get into the UFC because of the visa battles and getting into the country, and he finally made it in. He fought John Jones, one of the greatest of all times. He's ruling over the division. He's able to maintain and keep himself at the top after so long, after John moves up, and still is able to get that victory. Man, what a win for Glover Teixeira. Like you said, it was super emotional, especially at the end of the fight, watching him walk out and watching him see Nogueira and all these extra things. Like, man, he actually did this, right? And it's crazy to see, but phenomenal win for Glover Teixeira. Let's talk about what's next for him a little bit, because now he has a matchup with potentially the future of the division in Yuri Prohaska. Man, what he did to Dominic Reyes, probably the best round of the year so far. How do you think that matchup ends up going down?
Oh man, that's gonna be tough because as much as I want to, root for Glover Teixeira, and then Yuri Prohaska is, he's the next heir to the throne in the light heavyweight division. There's two people I think that are potential next heir. Him, and we're gonna talk about the other guy in a second when we talk about Blachowicz. But man, I think that this is gonna be a tough night for Glover Teixeira if that when that matchup happens, just because Yuri is much younger, he's much faster, he's well everywhere, and striker, is which is key and which could cause Glover Teixeira problems because Glover Teixeira, he does have slow reactions in terms of head movement and defense like that. And Yuri's just so fast. He cuts angles and he's able to, just be so creative. And I think that fight will just be a passing of the throne.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. It feels like not the same situation, but kind of where Charles Oliveira gets that belt just because. But we know Dustin Poirier is the best lightweight in the division, at least in my opinion. But it's kind of that same thing, right? Like you said, Jira is kind of that prodigal son of the light heavyweight division. The things, first of all, his character is amazing, right? He's like not even a real person. He's kind of like a character in a movie. His hair is crazy. The things he does in fight, the way he fights. I believe he fought in Rise or won before he fought in the UFC. The fights that he had over
He
there,
fought in Rising.
absolutely amazing, right? It was Rising. Crazy fights that he had over there. Incredible record as well. And now he's going to be going up against, like you said, Glover Teixeira, who's a little bit slower. And when you have a guy that's a sniper like Yuri Prokaska, that's going to be a tough night out, man. It's going to be a lot harder because he has pretty good takedown defense as well, right? He's fought guys that were able to try to take him down. And it's not the same when you have somebody that's just so agile. Like you were alluding to, he's this new breed light heavyweight, where they're faster, right? You see the new breed heavyweight in Cyril Gahn, how they're moving faster and they're becoming more agile. Same kind of thing here with Yuri Prohaska. It's going to be a great matchup. But let's get to what I think what the fight of the night was. The absolutely amazing co-main event. The bantamweight interim belt on the line. Petr Yan taking on Cory Sandhagen. Petr Yan gets it done. What were your thoughts on that fight?
Dude, what a critical masterclass. I mean, when you a Petr Yan and Cory Sandhagen fight, this is exactly what you thought. They both implemented their game plans like to a T. Even though Cory Sandhagen, he kind of faded in the last three rounds. I mean, he put on an impressive performance. We can't, we have to give him his applause for that. But Petr Yan, man, I think he is the best bantamweight in the division right now. I mean, the man is just so technical. He's just such a smart fighter. I think he has the highest IQ in that division. I mean, he's able to read mid-fight on tendencies that his opponents are doing. He was able he was able to read the distance of Cory Sandhagen and implement uppercuts, to kind of stop him from cutting angles. And it was a great performance by Young.
Yeah, man. Petr Yan, like you said, he's one of those guys that just gets better as the fight goes on. I mean, in the first round, Cory Sandhagen was doing just such a really good job moving around, right? Being lateral, pop shotting him in and out, a couple of good low kicks. Petr Yan was just kind of it's gauging his time. We've seen multiple times. He lost the first round against Aljo. He lost the first round against Aldo, I'm pretty sure, as well, in the striking department. Nothing new here. He always seems, and they talked about this on the broadcast, he always seems to kind of just make his reads in the first round. And in the second round, that's where everything changed, and it showed in all the judges' scorecard. I'm pretty sure everybody had it 49-46. That first round was the only round that could have gone to Cory. That second round was where we saw him turn it up, right? He was hitting some beautiful low leg kicks. He was, whenever Cory was switching to southpaw, he was going right to the body, right underneath the guard of Cory, because it's good that Cory Sandhagen is long, but with being so long, it's a lot harder to bring those elbow downs when you're trying to guard your head as well. So credit to Petr Yan for implementing that game plan. We saw Cory try to shoot even a couple times in this fight, and it was an absolute no-go. Petr Yan just absolutely Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he really just, like, for Cory Sandhagen, it was really hard once he's been connected that, like, his range, him being so lanky was hard when it came to close combat. You saw that once they started getting close, Petr Yan was able to pick him apart with body shots, be able to get him in, with uppercuts and stuff like that. Really, when they started getting close, when they started close fighting, that's where Petr Yan was, picking him apart. And I think that, that's what really did it for, besides the spinning, because I think the close fighting was really what, set the fight apart.
Yeah, once he was able to get inside and really start controlling the distance, that's where things changed, right? Because we saw that Cory was controlling the distance in the first round, but after that, he started to slow down. We saw some inside and outside leg kicks from Petr Yan just to kind of check away at that. And once, like you said, he was able to close that distance, I think it was the third round where he had a beautiful spinning back fist right into a nice straight left. And it's so awesome the way he follows it up, because a lot of fighters, they'll throw that spinning stuff and they won't follow it up. He throws it up and then he steps right into that left hand. So beautiful from Petr Yan. Just absolutely phenomenal game plan. He was able to drop him in that round. Fourth round and fifth round, we just saw the degradation of Cory Sandhagen as he faltered to the pressure of Petr Yan. He was able to just walk him down, right? He was just kind of straight up mobster style gangster, boxing him up straight to the face, to the body, inside, outside, everything, and he ended up getting it done 49-46. Any final thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, man, I just think that Petr Yan, Petr Yan's fighting style is made for 5-round fights. It's made for 25 minutes because unless the only way to beat Petr Yan is you have to have a fast start, because you're not going to be able to withstand your game plan, or at least withstand Yan's pace as the fight goes through. I think that Yan is just he's made for 25 minutes. He is, and I think that even though this was I think we're looking at a pound champion.
Yeah, I mean, it says interim on it, but I mean, we all kind of feel like this is a legitimate champion just because of the way that he handled Aljamain Sterling. So let's get into that fight right away. I feel like it's such a tough matchup for Aljo, right? Because he's not a phenomenal striker by any means, right? He has his moments where he's able to use his wrestling to set up his strikes, but if the wrestling's not there and if Petr Yan is able to stuff all that, then his striking's just not as effective as it could be when you have a guy, let's say somebody like Cory Sandhagen who had to worry about the takedowns and ended up getting his back taken by Cory Sandhagen. Somebody like Petr Yan with probably the best takedown defense in the division. I think it's I'm not sure if it's the highest in history in that division, but it's pretty damn high right now. But when you have a guy whose takedown defense is so good like Petr Yan, and he doesn't have to worry about the takedowns necessarily, the hand part comes easy, and he'll wear on you as that fight goes on. So I think Petr Yan probably destroys Aljo. It could be close. Don't get me wrong. I think if Aljo is able to really become a little bit better in the hands and use the hands to set up the wrestling instead of using the wrestling to set up the hands, I think if he's able to use the hands to set up the wrestling a little bit more, maybe hurt Petr Yan in some kind of way, do something that just earns the respect of Petr Yan, he might be able to get a takedown. But I think it's just such a tough matchup for Aljamain Sterling. What are your thoughts on that fight?
Well, I mean, this is that Aljamain Sterling's biggest asset is his wrestling, and he needs to use his strikes to set him up. But the problem is that he's kind of getting away from that. He does not know how to control his pace. That was the biggest thing in that Petr Yan and Aljo fight in the beginning is that this man kept throwing an onslaught of attacks, but he was not controlling it. It was literally he was just 1, 2, 3, 4, like everything was like right away. But he started great. If he beat Jan, he had to control it 5 rounds. I mean, the thing is, he just has to. I don't see him winning, but if he needs to be able to make significant adjustments with his conditioning, with his game plan, and with his ability to mix up the strikes to set up the takedowns.
Yeah, I think if he's able to make some of those changes, I think the second fight could be a lot more competitive. I mean, he kind of got a free pass, right? He learned everything that he needs to adjust coming into that next fight, and he still won the fight, on a technicality. So I think that's still good for him. I mean, he's still a great fighter. Don't get me wrong; he has the potential to win this fight. But man, Petr Yan looks generational as far as the talent that he's able to do, keeping the fight on the feet, just doing everything he wants, working like you said. He's a 5-round fighter to a T. It's going to be tough to see somebody take this guy down. Let's get into the next fight. One of these hype trains, we've had a couple hype trains tonight. All those hype trains are going to continue rolling out because they all got their wins. Let's talk about this first one because this was absolutely incredible. Dan Hooker coming in a little bit on short notice, taking on Islam Makhachev, the new prodigal son of the lightweight division, with Khabib stepping out. Makhachev coming in. Man, I mean, not much to talk about in this fight, right? He came in, beautiful right hook to a single leg takedown, goes to the double leg, gets from the half guard to the side control, gets the Kimura, gets the finish. Pretty easy there, and the way he made Dan Hooker look, and Dan Hooker is a damn good fighter. The way he made Dan Hooker look was just astonishing. It gives you kind of Khabib-esque reminiscence because there's the way he destroyed top tier fighters. What was your reaction to that fight, and how did you feel about it?
Yeah, man, what a flawless performance by Islam Makhachev. I mean, shout out to Dan Hook. I mean, taking it on 3 weeks' notice, I mean, that has to be commended for sure. And we have to realize, Dan Hooker is number 6 ranked. He did this to a top 6 ranked fighter. He took him down, and not only that, but his transitions and his sweeps were so seamless and fluid. And then just getting that Kimura, man, that was book right there. Press on it. After this Poirier and Oliveira fight, I think that either him or Beneil Dariush have to get that title fight.
Yeah, it really has to be one of these guys. And I mean, it's tough to deny Beneil Dariush because of the victories that he's had. I mean, he beat his last victory was Tony Ferguson, correct?
Right.
I think right. So he's like, I mean, you beat somebody like Tony Ferguson, you're on a great win streak. You got a lot of good wins under your belt. It's tough to deny somebody like him. But when you have somebody as impressive as Islam Makhachev, that's tough to deny him as well. But let's look at these rankings and let's talk about who he could potentially fight. I mean, do you see him and Beneil Dariush maybe as a co-headliner or on the same card as that Poirier Charles Oliveira fight, to see who's that true number one contender? Because I think you already have, Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler facing off. If you have two of those guys facing off, you get a pretty good answer to who's the number one contender.
Yeah, I mean, a fight against Beneil Dariush seems to make the most sense. I mean, you have number 1 and number 4, or number 2 and number 4 already facing off. You have the champion and the number 1 ranked already scheduled. So it makes sense to have the number 3 and the number 5 ranked fighters to fight. The lightweight division is like super stacked right now. Any one of these fights can earn them a title shot. So it's like there's so many options for the UFC to go with this lightweight division because the top 5, it's a bunch of contenders, man, that can earn that are one fight away from getting a title shot. So I mean, however you see it, man, there's so many options in terms of who's next after Oliveira versus Poirier.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question could be answered potentially in that Justin Gaethje fight if one of those two guys gets a phenomenal knockout. It's going to be tough to deny them as well. I mean, Justin Gaethje's only knockout recently has just been Khabib, and then before that, I think his previous loss was Dustin Poirier. But other than that, I mean, having losses to the current champion if Dustin wins, and then obviously the losses to the greatest of all time, that's not a bad loss record that's not a couple of bad losses to have on your name. And if you go ahead and you beat Michael Chandler, the guy who just fought for the belt, that's it's tough to deny him from having, his shot at the belt as well. Any final thoughts on this fight before we move over into that hype train that is Khamzat Chimaev?
Yeah, man, it's just Islam Makhachev, man. Like 9 fights in a row now. It's he's literally steamrolling through the division. He is a top contender now. It's not gonna be hard for him to get fights now. Because before Dan Hooker, it was really hard for him to get top contenders, man. It was so hard, and now after this fight, I think now he's gonna get the fights, the real big fights that he deserves.
Yeah, he absolutely will. I mean, nobody can deny him now, right? He just beat Dan Hooker, who's one of the top in the division, one of the toughest guys in the division. But this guy's anytime, anywhere. He's man, tough guys. You could see how upset Dan Hooker was for losing the fight the way he did, right? You saw the defeat in his eyes, but with no doubt in my mind, Dan Hooker will be back. This guy's one of the best in the division. He'll definitely be back, and all props to him for taking this fight on a couple weeks' notice. Definitely crazy fight by Islam. But let's get to the next hype train of tonight, man. Khamzat Chimaev. He continued to roll, man. He continued to roll. Another fight without a strike even being touching him. He goes, he gets the leech, man. He gets his back, and I think it's a rear naked choke. Puts the leech to sleep, man. Li Jingliang. Tough night at the office for him, but Khamzat Chimaev, man, he looks really good. The hype seems to be real. How do you feel about that one?
Dude, Khamzat Chimaev is the real deal. I mean, to be honest, I was a little worried about this fight against Li Jingliang because Li Jingliang is a tough guy. He just, he just stopped Santiago Ponzinibbio, and just Santiago Ponzinibbio is a nasty dude in that division. So it was a really tough fight for people before the fight. Writing him off, don't, because that was his toughest fight to date. But Khamzat Chimaev, man, he looks like a real deal. He looks like another fight. One more fight and he's in the top 10. That's for sure. Like he's in the top 15 now, but one more fight, he's in the top 10, maybe even the top 8.
Yeah, he's right there, man. I mean, I believe Li Jingliang was ranked 11th tonight, so he's dominated that guy. Like you said, he'll propel you over a couple of the guys that take losses in that division. So undefeated, still undefeated. He got a submission so fast. I mean, who stops this guy, man? Who do you think? Who do you think beats this guy?
The thing is, I don't know because there hasn't been any. He hasn't shown us any holes in his game. Like everybody he's fought has been domination. He's only been hit one time in 4 fights. So there's no. I mean, there could be someone, but we don't know what. He hasn't given us anything to show like who has a style that really can trouble him, because it looks like he looks like he's gonna dominate the division. It looks like it. I would like to see a fight between him and someone like Bilal Muhammad or Neil Magny. I would like to see like him fight those guys. But man, I'm just excited for Khamzat Chimaev going forward.
Yeah, I mean, when there's these guys that are hype trains and they continue to win and they continue to make it to the top, it's only better for the sport, right? Because now these guys that have built up notoriety, they're making it to the top. Their name is becoming recognizable. And Khamzat Chimaev, man, his name was recognizable just 2 weeks into his UFC career, having 2 fights, I think, in 13 days. Was it? And it was incredible. He won at 170, moved up, won at 185. Unfortunate events, man. He got COVID, right? He was unable to fight. He was having some after effects problem, retired, unretired, came back. He was able to get the win tonight, man. And the hype train, like you said, it looks real, and I'm excited to see what the future for him holds. Lots of fun matchups for him at 170. If he decides to move up to even 185, I'm curious to see what he can do there as well. But phenomenal fight there. But as far as the main card goes, man, we saw that Alexander Volkov get a win over Marcin Tybura. That was kind of a lackluster fight, in my opinion. Nothing much to it there. Volkov, after taking losses to a couple of the top guys in the division, is kind of in that middle ground right now. What do you think next for him? Do you think he can get himself back into title contention, or do you think he's one of these gatekeeper kind of guys?
He's one of these gatekeeper kind of guys. He's like literally he's that one of those guys on the cusp of getting title contention, but he's not there. He's not on the level of those top contenders. I mean, next fight for him, I think if he really wants to be back in title contention, the next fight will probably be against Curtis Blades. and I don't see that fight going well for him, man. He's a guy where he's the gatekeeper. He's the definition of a gatekeeper in the division, because if you're able to beat him, you're most likely a top contender. But if you're not able to beat him, then you're probably in that middle ground of like 7 and below.
Yeah, it's tough because now Marcin Tybura is in that spot, right? And I'm
Right.
pretty sure, yeah, he got taken down 14 times in that fight against Curtis Blades. That was June 2020 of last year. That matchup is just not a favorable one for him. I think Curtis Blades set the record for takedowns in the fight in the heavyweight division with 14. That's not a good fight for him. I don't know what's a good matchup for him because now he's beaten these guys that are below him. He's lost all the guys that are above him, and he's not showing anything super crazy. I mean, he was great against Overeem, but Overeem really wasn't looking that great in that fight anyways, right? He was on one foot on the way out. He kind of left after that fight anyways. Tough one there. But still not too bad. Not too bad of a fight. He still got the win. Ended up getting it done. Opener for the card, another kind of a slower fight. Magomed Ankalaev defeats Volkan Ozdemir. I wanted to see a knockout. I thought Magomed had some. He dropped him in the first round, and after he dropped him, we saw Volkan just not really be the same. He was very hesitant. He didn't want to get in there. A beautiful check right hook by Magomed was able to bust the right eyelid or left eyelid of Volkan open in the second round, and after that, nothing much was there. It was pretty slow of a fight. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, man, Magomed Ankalaev, man, he pretty much dominated that fight. And we were talking about gatekeepers. I mean, Volkan Ozdemir is kind of in that same boat of guys that he's not a contender anymore. If you can beat him, you're going to be in the upper echelon of the light heavyweight division. But Ankalaev, man, he dominated that fight, and I think that a fight against Dominic Reyes, Santos, or even Anthony Smith makes sense if he wants to be catapulted into title contention.
Yeah, I like that Anthony Smith. I like the sound of that Anthony Smith matchup a lot. Magomed, I think, now with 7 wins in a row, tied Chuck Liddell for third all time in the light heavyweight division. Behind, I think it's Lyoto Machida with 8, and then John Jones, what I want to say 14 or 15. Don't know what his streak is there, but yeah, man, third all time as far as UFC light heavyweight win streaks. That's a pretty good notch to have under your belt. Tying Chuck Liddell, one of the greatest of all times, right? In that division. That's a pretty good notch to have under your belt. But man, that main card was pretty fun. We had a lot of fun fights there. Couple of decent ones in the prelims as well. Most notably, Lerone Murphy with that beautiful jumping knee to Makwan and Mirkani. We did see
Right.
Andre Petruski get a really, really late submission as well. And my favorite fighter, Amanda Ribas, she got her win. I was very happy. We did see Virna walk out to Island Boy, so shout out to all them Island boys, right? But Johan, the real question is, are you an Island Boy?
Oh, you know I'm an island boy.
Let's get it. Let's get it. That's what I'm talking about. All right, perfect. What was your favorite fight of the prelims? And as far as this card goes,
I mean, the one that stood out to me, because I mean, Lerone Murphy's knockout, obviously. I mean, we have to talk about that. But I mean, I think the one that most impressed me was Andre Petrosky, because going into the Ultimate Fighter, he was the favorite to win. And
right?
he obviously lost to Brian Battle in the semifinals, and he bounced back against, I forgot what his name was, but he bounced back in the finale. And then just this performance here against Yao Zhang Hu, he looked like his wrestling was really dominant. I mean, he's still very raw in his striking. He's kind of sloppy. He throws everything into his punches. Like he arm punches, if that makes sense. He throws with his arm instead of really throwing with his hips or his body. But he looks like he's looking really good, and I'm very interested to see what he's gonna do going further in his career.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. And honestly, that fight was really good because, like you said, Yao Zhang Hu, he was eating so many straight left hands. He was eating a lot of shots, and he was able to stay standing. And for him to get that submission late in the fight, to show to kind of he looked tired, but he still was able to do it, right? He was tired in that first round and that second round, but it shows that he has that ability to close that fight out late if need be. But like you said, that's an impressive one. He's a really interesting prospect in that division. I'm curious to see how he develops moving forward. Any final thoughts on this card at all?
Yeah, man. For it being a ESPN Plus exclusive card, usually like in the back in the days for UFC, like those free like UFC main event cards, they were pretty thin. But overall, this card, I mean, two title fights, um, uh, two hype train fights with Hamza Shemaev and Islam Makhachev, and overall, this event was just entertaining, man. From the undercard to the main card, everything was. I did not take my eyes off the television. I'm not gonna lie. It was just an overall good night of fights, and I'm looking forward to next Saturday now.
Yeah, I mean, next Saturday, what a card we have. I mean, we have the rematch between Usman and Colby Covington. We got the rematch between Zhang Wei Li and Rose Namajunas. We got Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje. Man, like you said, phenomenal card next week. As far as this card goes, like you said, phenomenal card. The only time I wanted to look away all night was when that referee did a horrible job of letting that fight continue to go on. But other than that, absolute phenomenal card, top to bottom. Finishes, competitive fights, hype trains, title fights, everything you can ask for in a fight, man. And like you said, next week is going to be another fun one as well. A lot of great fights coming up as far as everything goes, man. This UFC just continues to roll out great event after great event. So phenomenal night, or not even night, phenomenal morning. I guess we can say it started at 10:30 this morning. We're pulling the show at about 6:11 p.m. here on the East Coast. But a phenomenal pay-per-view by UFC. Another good one coming up next weekend. Any closing thoughts before we close the show out, my man?
Yeah, man. Just what a great night, man. What a great night of fights. We're gonna continue this next Saturday with UFC 268. Most likely, we're gonna continue this for fight nights. So what a great time.
Absolutely, man. It was a phenomenal show. I appreciate you, Johan, for joining me. Hopefully we can make this a habit. Hopefully we can have you on more of these post shows. Phenomenal talking fights with you, especially on a great night where like we said, we had two title fights, two new champions being crowned. Like you said, on a free card. Can't get better than that. So to you, my man, and to everybody who watched and to everybody who's going to watch in the future, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for checking out the Three-Piece Combo MMA Show brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Johnathan, and my man, Johan. We appreciate you guys, and we hope you guys have a